I take these over where I can reach them from my chair. And I usually work a board at a time. So when I fill the board, I get up and move it. And that helps with my back too, so I'm not sitting all day. So I think when people ask me how long it takes to make a coffee mug, they're talking about this part, without understanding what else goes into it. And we'll see as I go along that quite a bit goes into it.
What kind of clay are you working with today, Benner?
I have Cinco Rojo, Firestone 6. Oh.
If anyone has any questions or anything, feel free to unmute. Or if you, I don't know, if you have any comments about Benner's style choices for today, you know, feel free.
I like the shirt.
What you need here?
Thank you.
Style.
I had a woman tell me once, she's an older woman, that reminds me of my husband. The shirt.
Yeah.
They're actually melting cones, of course. But it was funny. So right now I'm taking the throwing lines out of it as best I can. This is not a mug that I made a long time ago. I made a mug that looked like this. And I made them by the thousands. And I started to, it's kind of a long story, but I made so many pots for so long. And then I was in Louisiana when Hurricane Katrina went by, and it stopped me from making anything. I got a job at a library and really enjoyed that a lot, but when I finally got a chance to get back into pottery, I basically said I'm not going to make anything round again. I want it to be misshapen in some way, or loose, or have some curves to it. And the first thing I did when I had this mug was to just take my finger and come up on the inside. I was like, ooh, that's fun. Look at that. Man, that's so different from what I used to make.
Were you working for somebody else, Benner, back then when you were making all those mugs?
No. I started pottery in 1981 or 2, and took Dennis Smith's class. And, that was before the clay studio now was built. He asked me after a semester to be his assistant, and they shut down the clay department for a year while they built the new building. And we moved all the bricks over one by one and built all the new kilns and everything. And by 1985, he said, this was never supposed to be a permanent position, and you need to go find a studio. So I count 1985 as the beginning point. At that time, I shared a studio with Denise Martin,
Mm.
who now works in glass. She doesn't do clay anymore.
Right.
I wish she did, because it was a hoot being her partner.
Yeah.
What was the question?
No, I was thinking that maybe you were a production potter because you mentioned you made so many thousands of cups
Yes.
for someone.
You know, if you're familiar with the kilns downtown,
Mm-hmm.
the number one kiln has 2 stacks of 24 by 18 shelves and then 1 stack in front. The kiln that I built on Capitol Street, the first studio, I had space for 4 stacks of that same size shelf. So it's almost twice as much pottery going into it.
Wow.
I
Shortly after we built that kiln, Denise decided she wanted to do low fire.
Measure.
And so it was up to me to fill it.
I got you.
So it was a lot of work. And at first, you know, it was hard. It was hard to make a living at it. But they were, at that time, the School of Art was having they had a new director. The new director said he wanted to put the place on the map. He had come from being director of Anderson Ranch, fancy place in Colorado. And we started having workshops. We started having workshops instead of 1 a year. He had 2 or 3 a month. And every famous potter that was around at that time gave a workshop at the craft center. So I would say, you know, somebody would come and give a workshop and I go, oh man, I love that guy's pots. I want to make his pots. And then, you know, 2 weeks later, somebody else would come along. And I was like, oh, look at that guy's pots. They're amazing. I want to make those. And all this time, I was more or less copying people. But I was learning a whole lot at the same time. I was taking my pots to what was the Creative Arts Gallery in North Star Mall. And I went in one day with a box of pots and they said, oh, Benner, who are you this week? Which was like getting stabbed in the heart. But I went home and just kind of sat around for a while thinking about what I was going to do about that problem. And came up with 3 different looks that I thought were me. I took them all 3 to a craft fair in Salado, Texas, and sold almost all of one of them. So I said, okay, well, for the next fair, which was in Dallas, I made nothing but that and sold everything I brought the first day. I went home thinking, oh my God, I could make a living at this. And so that was great, except I was so busy making a living, I never really branched out from that. There were so many kilns for years at a time that I would load, and every pot in it was already sold.
Wow, that's
That was
awesome.
great. Yeah, it was great. But what happened was I just 20-something years later, I shipped out like 19 boxes of 24 by 18-inch boxes, all to one gallery. And then went back to look at my list of what I had to do next, and it was exactly the same thing that I had just shipped out. And I'm like, you know, this isn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
And not long after that, Katrina came along and saved me. And so here I am.
Great.
Yes.
Loose, because that's what I like about your work is that it's loose.
Yes. That's what I'm trying to do. And this will get looser. This was the start. Oh, wait, I forgot the one other part that was very important. Was to mess up the rim a little bit. I say mess it up, I just raise it up. I don't know if you can see it. It's pretty subtle, but it wobbles.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And I just put the handle anywhere. Pamela's always after me to think about where a right-handed person is going to drink from it or a left-handed person. And, you know, it's just never bothered me. I can drink out of a hump. I can drink out of a valley. It's okay. So that was one. I spent a lot of time talking. So the next thing I did was I went to a workshop with Stephen Hill, and this was a long time later, but shortly after I had started over. At that time had plans to move to San Antonio, into just outside of Alamo Heights, and I didn't think I'd be able to build a big old gas kiln. And on the back of the Ceramics Monthly, he had an ad that said, you know, something like, "What's the big deal with reduction? You can make pots that look like they were fired in a gas kiln, even a wood kiln or a soda kiln, in an electric kiln." And that's exactly what I need. So I went to this workshop, this wonderful place in Tennessee. And it was the first time I'd ever seen anybody use slip for texture on pot. So far you can see this is the same shape. Usually oops, not this one. I did that on purpose. When I'm teaching, I do try to mess one up every now and then on purpose, because the students are like, "Oh, thank God you did it." You know, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, that's kind of me all the time.
Well, I made pots every day, all day, 7 days a week in 1985, 86, 87. And you get better. But it takes concentration and talking and throwing the different thing for me. Okay, so what I do now is take slip, which is just the stuff out of the bottom of my bucket, saved and taking the water off and stuff, or mixing it, taking the trimmings from the bowls and other things that I trim, and melting them down, putting them through a 40 mesh sieve. I think I've maybe moved to a 60 mesh, but that can take 2 or 3 hours to make. So we're going to add that to the time that it takes to make a mug. And I try to make a lot at a time, so it doesn't happen for every mug. But right now, this is the slip. Very smooth. It's very smooth and yummy. Ooh, it's so much fun to feel, stir around. But so I'll grab a handful of it. Whoops. And put it on the pot. You can see the texture more that you saw on the first one, sort of. And then the fun part is to get a really soft rib, these red ones, because I'm not pressing against the clay. I'm moving the slip. So I'm not pressing very hard, but the slip then gathers up on this part of the rib and drops out from under it. And you get really cool stuff going on.
That's cool.
And I also learned to spray glazes at the same workshop. And all of this surface activity really gives you something to spray. It's not dipping, and you can't dip and get a color in the middle. Of course you can dip it to the middle, but that's not what I meant.
Right.
Anyway, then I will go back and clean this up. Sometimes I will have to make 4 or 5 passes with the rib to get an interesting texture. It doesn't always work out as quickly as this one did. And you can do it forever. I mean, you can do it until you like it. And I'll change it to show you what I'm talking about. I'll just do another pass. That's some cool stuff.
Yeah. Very nice.
Anyway.
Do you always add the
Yeah.
slip? You always add
I'm
the slip?
sorry? Say it
You always
again?
add the slip while you're on the wheel still, or just sometimes you let it harden up a bit before you add it?
No, I add it right away.
Always.
Yeah. Now when I do bowls, especially flared out bowls, I'll put the slip in the bottom and make something that I like, and then use a heat gun. Otherwise the bowl will collapse. But I like to do it right away.
I've heard about this legendary heat gun that you have.
Yeah. It's supposed to, you buy it at Home Depot, it's supposed to dry paint.
Pamela said it's your favorite tool in there.
Yeah.
Where is it right now?
She's wrong. I like the wheel.
Yeah, that's true.
It's right here.
Oh, there you go.
And it's always plugged in. The problem is, of course, with this is that you can't pick it up. That's not what you did. So I will, way down here at the bottom, I'll slide this off to the edge and then push it. And it does kind of mess up that little ring at the bottom. But that's okay because I'm going to go back and mash that edge anyway. And so I've made puff like that for a long time. Lots of different shape mugs. Instead of the one that I showed you at the beginning that I made by the thousands. I make just all kinds of shapes. Big doughy ones, straight ones, some that flare out like that. But I just recently, last summer, went to see a potter named Tony Clennell. And well, I was drawn to his pots because of the handles that he makes. His pots themselves are just off the wall. They're if you're familiar with Stephen Hill, try to imagine the opposite of Stephen Hill, and that's Tony Flannel. He's a wood firing guy, but it's mostly just the stuff that he does to his pots. And one of the ones that I caught on with, I'll show you in a second. You know, you go to a workshop, you kind of come home and make that person's pots, and then eventually you start adding stuff to it that makes it yours. And he warned me of that. And starting to do that.
I shared his Instagram link and his name or his tag and his name on in the chat if anyone wanted to check in on the chat. So you can check out Tony's handles.
Yeah. His pots in general are just crazy, but in the demonstrations, we went a couple of days before he made any handles. And he said, okay, well, today we're going to do handles. That's what you came for. And, you know, everybody goes, yeah, that's right. We want to see your handles.
Hey, Alan, I was going to say, Tony has a video. I think it's on YouTube or some other channel. I think it's called Get a Handle on It. But it's kind of fun if folks want to look it up.
All right, I'll find it, and I found it, and I'll link it. I'll link it also down here in the chat.
He fairly recently did a online workshop thing like we're doing today. But you know, I only got to watch it for a week, and then it went down. It was good. It was cheap. There's a lot of money to go to Connecticut to watch it, and it's much better to watch it on the computer. Okay, so same thing. Goofy rim. Put the slip on. Okay, so that's pretty much what I just made. But after going to see Tony, let me get rid of the bottom first. Okay, what I'm going to do is come around here so you can see what I'm doing. Normally I would do this sitting down, but I will take either my thumb or my finger, stick a hand inside and pooch it out, and go around it, and really mess with it hard.
Wow. That's cool.
And then go the other way. And this is just the beginning. When I get this dry, of course you have to kind of go back and fix it.
cool. Love it.
Yeah. And you can see where, like along here, where there was slip. And
Mhm.
then down here, where I went around like this and messed up the slip, but it came out into a little sharp kind of wave there.
Yeah.
It's a blast. I've been having so much fun. And since I can't go anywhere, I've been having a lot of fun. And doing this to everything. I have teapots with that on it. I have bowls, vases, all kinds of stuff. Okay, so let's say you make 24 of those, or 48 in different shapes, 12 of one shape, 12 of another. You spend, it's time for lunch. So it gives the pot a little bit of time to dry, and I'll put a handle on it. Well, I don't like get a coil of clay and make a handle out of it and stick it on a pot, and then make another coil of clay. I'll grab what feels like about the same amount of clay out of a bag of clay. I don't have any clay. Hang on.
How much clay do you need? No, I don't have much.
Here, I have this. Okay. This is clay that was messed up in some way or another, and I wrapped it up in.
Actually, that's a good little.
Unmute.
No, don't unmute.
Did I lose you, Alan?
We can hear you just fine. We've got you on the audio from your phone on the wheel, so we can hear you just fine.
Okay. Actually,
I launched.
can you tell them what you? Can you show them what you do?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a handy
Go
little.
lay down. Go lay down, Mama.
Tell 'em, I think
You
that's.
tell.
So.
You showed me.
Yeah, actually, it probably started with me because when I make stuff with slabs, if it doesn't work out and I want to recycle it, I don't want to have to slake it all down and do a bunch of reclaim. And so I take a towel, any kind of towel, it could be a kitchen towel, this is a bath towel, but sometimes we use smaller ones, and you soak it with water and you wrap your clay in it, and it will rehydrate your clay without having to let it get bone dry and go to reclaim. And pretty much you can do it from hard leather hard back.
This at one time was stiff enough to where it wouldn't bend, and now it's just ready to use.
So
And it happens in a couple of hours.
yeah, it happens real fast. And so you like dip the old nasty towel in a bucket of water, squeeze it out like a little more than halfway.
Yeah.
So it's not drippy, but it's still pretty wet. And then wrap it up, and you have clay you can work with again, later that day. It's been nice.
Yeah. So that's where this clay is coming from. So I'm going to wedge it a lot because it's not fresh out of the bag. That's enough for that. So I've got 24 mugs to put handles on. I will take some fields like that and do that 24 times.
Stop.
On and on and on.
Go lay down. Go lay down.
Then I will roll each one out into a carrot. Flatten it on both sides. Put it over there. It all makes about the same size carrot, same width. And make a pile of those. Maybe I'll make some more.
Can you show us a little close up of the carrots after you've flattened them out a little bit?
Already wants to be in my hand. So it doesn't take very long to make one carrot. Flatten it out and add it to the pot. These I made yesterday. They got a little hard, but they will accept a. Okay, this is an example of the first one. It's an example of the second one, and it's kind of flattens out as it dries. You can see the texture on it some, but when I made it, it was considerably more than that. The last one. And so this is where I have to decide where to put the handle. And so there's a big white spot there, so I'll put it over here. I'm going to need a knife. Cut it off flat. And I will do all of this to all 24 handles before I ever put the first one on. Right now I'm slapping it a little bit to try to get it wider here and wider here. One of the things I saw Tony do, this takes a lot of time. He just stuck his finger in there. He's just very direct. I mean, he just pushes it out. Makes it really quick. Take a scoring tool. This is a metal rim that has notches all along it. Score it. Depending on the wetness or dryness of the clay. I use magic water or just plain water. It's a good idea.
Does everybody know what magic water is?
I don't know. Does everyone know what magic water is?
Yes.
Let's hear
I
it.
do.
I don't know. It's magic.
It's
Oh.
magic.
What is it?
It has sodium silicate in it.
It's water with sodium silicate.
It makes it so that pieces are a little, it's a little stickier when you're putting the handle on than just plain water.
Right.
So it's just water and sodium silicate. Do you think about the what's the ratio?
Well, Benner's doing this. I'll get ours. I think the recipe is on the thing. If you look up on the internet and do Lana Wilson magic water, it's Lana Wilson, I think, who first used it.
Yeah.
There's a recipe. I think there might be one other ingredient besides the sodium silicate. But
I've got a recipe here. Let
Yeah.
me give you the recipe. It's a half gallon of H2O, 2 tablespoons of liquid sodium silicate, and 1 tablespoon of soda ash.
There you go.
Soda ash. What's that doing in there?
It really depends on your clay. If you're not having trouble with handles popping off or your seams breaking, then don't bother. But if you're having, issues with it, then it's worth a try. With the Cinco Rojo, I have found that it makes my seams more stable and I have less trouble with them splitting and my handles stay on better.
It's harder with porcelain.
John, can you repeat that recipe one more time for us?
Yeah, let me go back to it. Hold on one.
And if I'm not mistaken, you mix the soda ash in warm water before you add it to everything else to help it dissolve.
Yes. I don't see it right in my book right this second, Alan, but I'll send it to you. You can put it up on Facebook.
I think it was you say 2 gallons of water, 2 tablespoons
Oh,
sodium
yeah.
silicate,
Yeah.
1
Half gallon of
tablespoon,
water.
half gallon of water. Okay.
Yeah. 2 tablespoons of sodium silicate, and
I think it was 1
Um,
tablespoon.
And-
Right, soda ash.
and 1 tablespoon of soda ash.
Cool. Just wanted to share it on the chat there too, so anyone can
Yeah,
have it.
good, great.
No,
What?
no, no, soda ash.
I think you do.
Okay, anyway. This mug has some cool stuff going on here. And then like nothing going on over here. And
Benner, can you scoot a little bit to your left? Get a little bit in front of that door. There, that's a little better. There you go. Yeah.
You want to block the light?
Yeah, getting a little glare there from the light. You can see
There's
that.
like nothing over here. But then there's this pretty massive little thing right there. And I'm one that just can't let that happen. So I got some tools. My 2 favorite tools to play with this part is this, which used to be the handle of a wire tool. But I flattened it, flattened it like this, and then got a round file and filed it in there. It looks like it needs it again. And this thing is just a stick with 2 different size balls on the end, and you can get a set of these. The balls get bigger and bigger. But I like the little ones. And so, can you see this, what I'm doing? I will, where this hump is, I'll take this line that comes this way and continue it so that it joins up with something else with this tool. Or just go off by itself. So now it has things going on in the other parts. I don't know if you can see it or there's lines on it now.
Mhm.
Go back with this little tool and usually 3 at a time,
It's a little higher. You can.
3 at a time. Make little things that go some or not. So now I can go down here. It's a little stiffer down there, press harder. And this is kind of new for me. I haven't had an opportunity to take it anywhere yet. So, but I like it. It's fun doing it. And so I'll probably keep doing it. I do that to a lot of stuff. The teacup got the little marks on it right there. It's got lines going down it like this. It's fun. And that's my mug. Okay, so I don't know how long it's taken to make that mug, but there it is. There is another one new thing that I have been doing. Pamela, for my birthday, gave me a bunch of stamps that are made by this guy. And these are really cool. And they have another stamp on the other stamp. And I have started making these cups again. because it gave me such a great place to use my stamps. And you can see I've pooched it out there, then a stamp, then a pooch, then a stamp. Just another look.
Mhm.
Benner, your cups are what, about 8 ounces, 10 ounces?
I don't know. I thought they were closer to 12, but you can fill one up. Do you have anything to measure with?
Yeah.
Measuring cup. See you right back.
Cool poll. Neat idea.
Okay, well, this is 16 ounces.
I shared a poll here, Benner, and can you believe that I'm the only one here that's taken one of your classes?
No way.
Yep.
I'll see what you missed. Anyway, it's 16 ounces.
All your classes are always like,
Pour it up if you have no sugar or cream and used.
Better get your calculators.
8 ounces left, so 4, 8, 12. They're about 12 ounces. This held 12 ounces. And it's a short one.
Go lay down. Go lay down over there, Mom. Yep.
I made some like this, which hold almost 32 ounces. Somebody asked me, so are you during quarantine, are you drinking more, Benner? I said, no, I'm just tired of getting up. Okay, all right, so then I would let this dry. I think that's all I have. I would let this dry and just fire it in this kiln over here. And
Benner, I have a
comes
question.
out with sort of like this. Yes.
So when you do your squiggly lines, do you smooth it out later on so that it's not sharp? Or how do you take care of the burrs?
Rub it with my finger. If I miss it, then I use what I call a magic rock. Very important tool. I'll show it to you. Never use it. Looks like this. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Every pot that comes out of the kiln gets this.
Okay.
And that's about all it takes. But you can also use the edge of it. They make another one that is long and skinny stick sort of thing. I find that one hard to deal with, so I always use this one right here. This actually comes in 3 blocks. There's one, they're attached at the end, so it's you grab it and it's 3 blocks and you just break one off. Roadrunner has them now after I pleaded with them to get them.
Get out
Go
after
ahead.
you smooth it out after bisque, not during what?
I smooth it out at every stage.
Okay. Thank you.
Like, you know, if I rub my hand over something and I feel it's sharp, I'll try to knock it off there. If I glaze it, if I make a spot, because a lot of these have a lot of places where it's sharp, even on the edge of the little hole right there. That can be a little bit sharp. Once I press it in, the clay comes out, it gets sharp. And if I finally get it out of the kiln and with glaze and everything else, and I find a sharp space, this will take care of it. So at all stages, Mara. It was Mara, right?
Yes. Thank you.
So now we're going to move outside. Wait, before we do that, take this with me. I spray my glazes, I mentioned that, and right now I have, this is just about maybe half of the glazes that I have. Let's see. Can you see all those?
Yeah.
Here's about- And
Are you going, do you
it
want me to
takes
set this up?
sometimes, it takes,
Are you gonna set up outside?
I'm set up already.
Okay, let me take care of this.
It takes almost all day to mix that many glazes.
I think we don't have a tripod set up, so I'm gonna, there you go.
It takes that long to, I mean, it takes almost all day to mix the glazes, and I have, like, I have 3 different greens.
Can't
Pamela?
hear him.
Yeah, one second. So we've been running off of the audio from one of the phones, but not, there we go.
Sort of red. A transparent glaze with colors in it, same colors, blue, green, so I can have that. Anyway, I'm taking you out to my spray booth and spray a thing. We won't be able to talk while it's on because it's so loud, but Pamela will try to film what it looks like to spray a pot. On this particular pot, I've got 5 different glazes, and I have one finished that I'll show you what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
Follow me.
Okay, enough. Move. Sweet girl. Sweet girl, you shed so much.
Pamela, can you hear us? I think their audio might, yeah. We were kind of losing them there for a second. Got their audio back. There we go. So I'm gonna go, so even though Benner, can anyone hear Benner? No, no one can hear him, right? So I'll kind of explain what I think he's talking about. So you can get three guns, 3 spray guns. You can get 2 large ones and a small one, relatively cheap, from Harbor Freight. You can get a set of 3, and these little containers that he has for his spray guns, for the gravity-fed spray guns. I think it's DeBliss. DeBliss is the company that puts these out. They're separate from the spray guns, but he's able to then have a container for each one of his glazes that he sprays, and all he has to do is pop the container on top of the gun. Because he has multiple guns, he doesn't have to worry about cleaning out the guns in between. So he can just kind of stick to one gun per glaze. It looks like he's kind of using a little bit of a smaller setup today for the presentation. But typically what he would have is actually one gun for each one of those containers. You can see him kind of cleaning it out a little bit here, but for the most part, he's just kind of switching them out and letting the overlap happen. You know, whatever's still stuck in the gun there. These containers are very convenient, especially if you're doing, you know, 5 or 6 glazes. But he's got them all labeled so you can keep track here.
Did you say de Bliss on that, Alan?
Yes, I'll go ahead and let me link this to everyone.
Thank you.
I think it's actually DeVille Bliss, DEVIL, maybe BISS. So maybe not a Bliss. Here, I'll put it here.
Yes, de Vilbis.
DeVilbis. And so they actually do car spray paint systems.
Ah, okay.
And so this is. Let me see if I can get a link for you. I'll put it in there.
Thank you. Do you know if these are cone 6 glazes?
These are cone 6 glazes. Benner does everything in cone 6
Okay.
electric.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm trying to find a picture of the cups for you. They're called decups. So DEKUPS.
Thank you.
And you can get them at various sizes. Here's just a link to a starter kit. This is different sizes, but the ones he has there, I think, are the smaller ones, like 16-ounce cups, maybe smaller than that. They also make a 24 and a 32-ounce cup. But you know, the larger the cup, the more glaze that you're sitting there holding in one hand. So
Right.
the smaller ones allow you to do detail work with less glaze.
Mhm. Beautiful.
Okay. So Alan was giving them a nice little discussion as you were going through and shared the cups with everybody.
Okay. I don't know what he said, so I'll just assume that he got it right.
I think you did a pretty good job.
The last
So-
thing I want to point out to you, Alan, since I know you spray, is I did a black liner, and when I'm spraying all the other, some of it, the overspray goes down the side of it. So I go back at the end with the black spray over the cup, hit it like this, so that you can see a really nice line between the gray and the black. Okay?
Just to
Beautiful.
cover up any of that overspray.
Yes.
So Benner, we didn't really get to see very clearly what you were spraying there, but can you tell us about what glazes you put on there?
Yes.
Hold on, one.
Okay.
I poured black and
Got bad feedback.
Yeah, we got some bad feedback real quick. Can we unmute the phone that you're on right now, Pamela?
Unmute this.
Feedback.
Harry, let's switch it. Pamela, can you unmute the other phone, and I'm gonna mute this one.
I did. Okay, try it now and see if it's good. No?
hello.
I think I'm on a Twilight Zone or Outer Limits.
Hello.
Let me just get
Twilight
this.
Zone or Outer Limits.
Yeah, just turn the volume down on one of them. I think that would be fine.
Yeah, that'll probably work.
Okay.
Wait, did you leave volume on that one?
No.
Oh.
It's better.
It's better. It's better now. Oh, ruined it.
Turn that volume up again.
Just keep one down. The one that's muted, or the one that's on, keep the volume down.
How's that work?
Is that better?
That's better.
Better. It's clearer.
You wanna try it? There's still a feedback, isn't there?
No, we're good. We're good.
Not now.
Okay,
We're getting an echo.
Good job.
that's okay.
I took the black and poured it inside and poured it out. That's called the liner glaze. I also use red, white. That's about it. I took the black glaze. The next glaze I sprayed on was SCM, which is Strontium Crystal Magic, and it's a warm version. There's also a cool version. Then I sprayed black down here, and then up kind of underneath these things, underneath those, like that, all over the handle, all over the handle. Try to get back up under there. And then took one called Satin White and sprayed it just kind of through the middle. And this is what I was talking about earlier that you can't do with dipping. You can't get white through there. I guess you could try to pour it on or something, but spraying works really well. So that the white, you won't see it, but it will lighten the black, and it will lighten the green in places. I'm sorry?
Is it a blend?
Sort of a blend, yeah, it will when I'm finished.
You're gonna show
And then
them.
I spray a green over the top, kind of overlapping where it was black. The white is underneath it, of course, and fire it to cone 6. And then have a very slow cooling thing. My firings take anywhere between 18 and 20 hours. But all I have to do is program it and go to sleep. Anyway, so I put it in the kiln, and hopefully it will come out looking something like this. You can see the black down here, the white through there a little bit, but it's the black lightened up, and then the green on the top. So that's how long it takes me to make a mug. Oh wait, I have to sand the bottom, pack it in something, take it to a craft fair, set it all, Anyway, that's my show. Thank you very much for listening. Wake up the people next to you. And it's Pamela's turn.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Benner?
I have a question.
Thank you, Benner.
We've got some questions, Benner.
What's your question, John?
Hey, Alan, I'm gonna move. If you can go back to the other phone, Benner, if you can go to your wheel, because I'm gonna set this up for the thing.
Okay. Mark, you had a question?
Yes, I do. I noticed that you sprayed it. How do you get the underside of the handle with spraying? I spray all the time, and that is the most difficult part because it's very difficult to get the underside of the handle.
Right. Hold on. I'm gonna get another spray gun here. So
That's the thing I use.
there's the handle, and I get right up close to it and go psh, 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 psh.
That's it.
Not all one thing. Well,
Wow.
yeah, I'll do, little bursts of spray and do it on the other side.
Mhm.
it's just enough to make it smooth. The color is there, but it's not, I don't know how well you can see this color underneath there.
Yeah,
But
I see.
it's almost the color of the clay,
Mhm.
but it's smooth.
Yeah. I think my mistake is I've been doing it as one long burst.
Yeah,
And it's
Me
probably
too.
just, spinning off.
yeah. It's just,
Okay.
and, now you have to make sure you get inside the handle.
Benner, do you do the inside of the handle first before doing the spray for overall the outside of the cup?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think usually because you're doing those little bursts, it's kind of an uneven thing. When you go back, that blends it together.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Sure.
Benner, I mentioned to everybody that that you can pick up spray guns for relatively cheap from Harbor Freight, as well as the Devil Biss to cup system. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about with the spray guns and spraying?
I didn't really talk about the cups, but you saw them.
He sent a link to everybody with,
All these comes in different parts. You get a bag full of these, you get a bag full of these, or maybe these come with the tops. You get a little bag of these to stop them. This comes as one piece.
What size are those little ones?
The little ones are 9 ounces, I think, something like that. I do have bigger ones. Strontium Crystal Magic, I use a lot of because it goes on every pot. So this one gets Strontium Crystal Magic. I have one for the cool and one for the weather. They're a little more expensive, but so is a wheel, so is everything else. And I like the way it works, so I'm willing to spend the money on it. Now, I understand that Alan only has one gun at Harbor Freight. It's not Harbor Freight. What's the name of that? What's the name of the other place, Alan?
Amazon?
No.
The Home Depot or Lowe's?
you're talking about online?
Yeah, you buy them online. It's in California.
I don't remember the name.
But you can buy a set of 3 guns. You saw me use a black one, a red one, and a silver one. The silver one I sprayed right at the top of the mug. It's a detailed gun, so you can get this close to it and spray.
Oh, TCP Global.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
TCP, and that's actually on Amazon. Is that deal? You can find it there too.
Oh, really?
Okay.
I'll link that too. All proceeds will go to you, Brenner.
Yeah. They'll have to make a stop at Stephen Hill. You do have to buy some attachments. This little thing screws on into the gun. It's kind of complicated, but Alan, you still have your handout from the workshop, huh?
I do, yeah.
Okay, it tells you all about this.
Yeah, we can share that. If anyone wants to get more information on the guns, all the pieces that you need for them, just shoot an email to the San Antonio Potters Guild email address, sanantoniopottersguild@gmail.com, and I'll give you a copy of that handout that Stephen Hill hands out that talks about the guns and the attachments that we need for them.
All right, we good?
I think so. Any other questions for Benner? We do have some comments. So we have applause from Mara, and then Lucy said, "Excellent presentation, Benner. Love the handles."
Thank you.
One more question, Benner.
Okay.
When I saw you spray it and you came back with the pot or the mug in your hand, and your fingers were wrapped over the rim and touching the inside, do you have any concern about your oil on your fingers fouling your spray?
No, none at all.
Wow.
Um,
problems with that?
Can I what?
No problems with that? Because I'm often getting problems where the spray that I just sprayed is maybe it's not the right density or viscosity,
Uh-huh.
and somehow my finger will occasionally transfer into the glaze.
The glaze that I mix my glaze so that it is the same thickness that you would to dip it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's not thin. It's not thinner. The gun is, 5, whatever it is. So it's a big high. It's 50 psi. So
Yeah.
It blows anything through the gun.
Okay.
Except sand, of course. But I mean, you mix your glaze as if you were going to dip it, and then just spray it like that. Pamela can go for hours talking about glazes and ways to mix them so that they look the same every time.
Good.
The only
Okay.
thing I would say about grease on your hands, if you're wearing hand lotion for some reason, I'm going to leave this muted. Is that right, Alan?
Yeah, you're good. We can hear you.
Okay.
If you have hand lotion on, for some reason, if you have dry hands and you put lotion on your hands in the morning or something, that could cause a problem.
So I can put on like a thin, what's the word? Some kind of a glove, a nitrile glove when I'm spraying to avoid getting fingerprints.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to touch anything because something's going to foul it. But okay, thanks for the information.
Sure.
All right. Well,
All right, are we up for switching gears to something that it's probably 180 degrees different from Benner?
we're ready.
Yeah.
Okay. So Benner was working over there. I made a sample and then I'll make this for you. But this is can you see? This is the mugs that I have been making lately.
Cute.
You can see there's some texture on the bottom.
Nice.
And there's some seams.
Mm.
And I'll show you how we do the handle. So this is what we're going to make today.
Cool.
And I don't know if you can see when it sits. It kind of sits a little raised off the table.
Nice.
All right, so that's what we're going to do today. I rolled out some slabs ahead of time, but just for awareness, I have 3 different sets of sticks that I use for rolling slabs that are all different thicknesses. This one is the thinnest, and it's 1/8 of an inch.
Wow.
And these are the next, and it's 3/16. And then I have some 1/4 inch ones here. And it doesn't seem like a 1/16 of an inch would matter much in terms of how your slab works, but it's a pretty dramatic difference. So I use the thicker 1/4 inch maybe if I'm making plates or something, but for the mug, I use the 1/8 of an inch for the bottom, and I'm going to use the 3/16 for the sides. So actually, I already did these, but I'll show you kind of how it works. The surface that I'm rolling on here is cement board, which is nice for slabs because it doesn't stick, and it will take away some extra moisture if your clay is really wet. So this is just a little piece of clay that I rolled out earlier, and it's already at the 1/8 of an inch that I'm going to use for the bottom. So you do, to get your slab even, you do really want to be pretty aggressive about rolling back and forth over and over. Don't just stop because you've gotten your roller over the slats. Go back and forth, flip it, do it again, do it 2 or 3 times until you're really not catching the play at all when you roll. All right, so let's see.
You need some help.
Can you see my video now?
Yes.
So I work with templates, and it takes a little while to get templates that work together. It's really trial and error. But the trick is that as the diameter of the bottom has to match the circumference of the wall, so you have to be able to do that. Hey, Better, can you plug my phone in so it doesn't go dead in the middle?
Yep. You have a plug.
You brought one out.
Just plugs it in.
Okay, so this is for the bottom, and it is sized so that I can get a little bit of a curve on the bottom, as opposed to it being perfectly flat. And I'm okay, so I have a Dolan knife, which I like. It's very thin, and it doesn't cut me, but it gives me a nice clean cut on the slab without leaving burrs behind. And then the template's out of tar paper, which has a little bit of resistance. So when I get ready to cut it out, I can press my knife ever so gently against the template and guide the cut. And I end up, with the shape that I was looking for. So for the bottom, see, these are the scraps that I was talking about at the very beginning. They're a little bit drier than out of the bag, and that's the stuff that I'll wrap in a towel to rehydrate so I can wedge down and use it. Okay, so I'm just going to smooth the edges a little bit. On the top.
When you design your template, are you doing that on paper first, or are you doing it some other way?
I do it several ways. Sometimes I will make a pot like coil build or whatever and then cut it open. And then I use that pot that I just cut open to make something. Sometimes I'll make them out of paper and I'll put them together with tape. Lately, I have been doing more tweaking of templates rather than from scratch. And so, for example, this particular template that I'm using today is the walls are 7 centimeters tall. And I use a lot of centimeters. I learned it from Sarah Pike up in Canada, and centimeters seems to work really well for this. But this wall is 7 centimeters tall. And I have other templates, I'll show you, that are 6 and 8. And so I've been doing a lot of kind of adjusting templates that I had before. So here's an 8 centimeters tall one. And I would take one that I have already and either extend it or cut it off. Can you see? And so I build off of templates that I have already. Let me see if I have.
Pam, where do you buy your paper?
Hold on just a second. You're talking about the black paper that I'm using?
Yes, ma'am.
It's tar paper that they use for roofs. And okay. I have been lucky enough that I've always been able to scavenge some from construction sites. So if you know anybody that just had to have their roof redone with the hailstorm or something, usually there's some leftover and you can get it for free.
Awesome.
Tar paper also comes in different thicknesses. There's kind of very thin, medium, and very heavy. And I would say the medium is the best.
Okay.
The real thin stuff doesn't give you enough resistance when you cut out, and the real thick stuff is too hard to work with. It's just too stiff. So these are 2 mugs that I made a while ago. And one is the 7 centimeter height and one is the 8 centimeter height, and you can kind of get a sense for the difference that you get. And so I've been, just exploring what it does to the shape. This one in particular that I made today is almost a cube shape, which I kind of like. But yeah, so I made some templates. I've adjusted to templates that I've had and made them taller or shorter. Tar paper is not the only thing you can make templates with. Old file folders, like if you work in an office that has, a whole bunch of recycle or whatever, like the old manila folders work really well. Any kind of a heavyweight paper works fine. The tar paper is nice because you can wipe it off and the moisture doesn't bother it, so they last longer.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is our little piece for the bottom, and I'm gonna stamp it with my little chalk. This is just a stamp that I carved with my initial, and I'm gonna stamp it before I go further, because I want to have the smooth backing on it when I stamp it. And so to get the bottom of the mug to be rounded and to kind of stand up off the surface, I have a bullet mold. This particular one is one that Benner threw for me, and it's been bisqued. But you can make them by hand, or you can throw them really however you want. But I have a variety of bisque molds that I use for different stuff. Bullet molds. So I'm just gonna press it down gently. And we'll let this sit here because you really want it to get almost leather hard before I put it on with the walls. So that's why I did this first, and then we'll work on the walls and come back to it. But you can see it gives it just ever so slight amount of curve.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna sit there for a little while, and we'll come back to it.
I have the heat gun.
If we need it. Okay, I've used it. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do is the walls. Where did I set down my, who saw where I put my other half of my template down? Too far.
Plastic bag.
Might have gone back in the bag.
Oh, I put it away. Thank you.
Gone forever.
So this particular template, I've named them. So this one's called Martina. There's a putter, what's her last name? Martina, shoot, I can't remember right now. She's a thrower, she's not a hand builder, but I love the shape of her mugs. And so this mug shape was inspired by her, so I've named my template after her. All right, so I'm just gonna get two. Same thing, using the Dolan knife, pressing a little bit against the tar paper. And I'm not beveling or anything right now, I'm just cutting straight down. I should say that a lot of hand builders are really adamant that you have to rib your slab pretty thoroughly to keep it from warping, and I don't do that. Oh, I didn't do a very good job. There we go. Because I like to have a little bit of irregularity on my surface. So I do not rib my surface, and I haven't had trouble with anything as a result of that. But you'll hear other hand builders say you absolutely have to rib the surface before you work it.
So try it both ways.
So try it both ways. See what works. I will say the one challenge that I have is that sometimes my glaze will pinhole because of a little bit of texture that I've left in the clay. So I fight that because I like the texture, so I kind of try to find other ways to get rid of the pinhole. So what I just got, I have a bucket that says my Cinco Rojo scraps. And our studio is really dry because we have a dehumidifier and it helps everything kind of dry faster. But as a result, if I just leave clay sitting out, it'll get too stiff to work. So I have a bucket that I just throw my scraps in, and to sort of counteract the dryness from having sat on the cement board for a little while, I have a spray bottle, and I just kind of will put some extra water in there, almost to create a super humid environment in the bucket. Put the lid on so that those scraps are ready to be wedged when I get back to them.
That spray gun she uses is available online, and I just love it. You don't have to keep pumping it. It just it goes on its own, sort of.
And it's very, very fine. It's called a Flairosol bottle. It's super, super fine. I've only had it a little while. I used to use just a regular spray bottle.
They use them in beauty shops.
I've been playing around a little bit with some monoprinting, and it's handy for that. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do with these pieces that I have cut out is I am going to smooth the edges. And the reason I do that is I find that I get less cracking. And that may be because I didn't rib my slabs, but this is to kind of compensate for any irregularity there might be, and it keeps those cracks from starting to form on the edge. So just very light touch, taking the sharpness off the corners. And I find that I get less cracking. Less cracking from the rim and things like that. Okay, so then they're ready to start working with. And the first thing I'm going to do is bevel the sides. A lot of people will use the knife and they will cut a 45-degree bevel, or there's like bevel tools you can use. I use a rubber brayer. I have a wooden brayer too, but I like the rubber brayer because it doesn't take moisture out of the clay. The wood will take a little bit of moisture out of the clay. So I'm just going to run the brayer back and forth to create, can you see that? A little 45-degree bevel, if you can see it. And that will cause these little tails to come out, which you could use as a decorative element if you wanted. And I used to, but now I trim them off. That's just a design choice though. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. And the reason I use the rubber brayer to create the bevel instead of cutting it is because I leave my seams in my work. I don't cover them up. So if you look, it leaves the seam. And having used the brayer instead of the knife, I seem to get a cleaner seam at the end. It looks better. But again, you know, different people have different preferences on that. All right, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take care of finishing the lip of the mug because I want to do everything I can flat before I start, you know, picking it up and turning it around. So again, I'm going to use the rubber brayer and very gently just kind of take the corner off of the edge. And we'll call this the outside. And then we'll call this the inside because I'm going to create more of a bevel here so that just like if you were throwing a mug and you'd have the outside with a straight and you'd want the curve to come in so that you have sort of this edge that cuts the liquid when you're drinking, I'm creating that same shape with the hand open. All right. There it is. So there's two things I use to score. I have a little scoring tool and then this one. For larger surfaces, I use the rib, and for smaller spaces, I use the metal tool. So I'm going to score these. Again, trying to do everything I can while it's still flat. And kind of have to remember which one's inside and which one's outside now. So I have the outside up. And they're all nicely scored. And then I have, this is another bisque, handmade bisque mold piece that's been fired that I use to help. Really just, it's not a mold, it's more of a, like a skeleton. And I'm gonna wrap the mug side around to kind of pre-bend it. And sometimes I have different sizes. This is an old rolling pin, it does the same kind of thing. I just have that, took the handles off the rolling pin. And if I wanted to bend it a little extra, then I might use something smaller. Sarah Pike will talk about something called bendy memory. And just like once you bend your clay, if you're trying to make a plate or something, it'll come back in the firing. This is creating a bend memory, but it's one that I want it to have. So I'm just sort of teaching the flat slab that it's going to be round. And it will reduce the amount of warping when I get later on. So kind of over curl them. And then I have magic water also. I only put magic water on one side just because I don't want too much squishing out and we're making a messy seam. So a little bit of magic water on either side. And then I'm going to finger tack them. Not really adhering them all the way right now. There's just a light finger tack. So they're sort of basted on there, if you will. And then I'm going to go back to this skeleton kind of form. And I'm going to use it. Normally I would do it facing me, but I'll try to do it facing you. I'm going to use the brayer to compress the seam. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to compress right at the seam, but not over, because I don't want to, I'm trying to keep it, I don't want to obscure it. So I'm going to start by pressing right along the seam, and that has now adhered those. But I still have to go over a little bit because I want it to adhere on the inside as well. So I just kind of walk over just a little bit. And now that's a really solid seam with that compression. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm scooting it to the edge so I can get all the way to the bottom. Right along the seam first, but not over the seam, just up to it. And then I'm rolling slightly around the curve. And now both of those seams are solid. They won't go anywhere. So then the next thing I'm going to do, this is just a regular flower pot, which also, they're bisque, and so they work really well as molds for things to be round. In fact, Benner uses them sometimes. I'm just going to set it upside down.
I have to use them because I'm doing so much distortion.
Okay. And tighten up just that little tip at the end. If I have anything pooching from where I compressed it, there's not too much on this one, but if I have a little bit of unevenness there for some reason, then I'll just take a short form so that I have a nice flat, this one really didn't need it, but a nice flat surface to put the bottom on. Use the same scoring tool, score the bottom. And because this is going to have not a flat bottom, but a curved bottom, I score almost at a, not quite a 45-degree angle to the outside. And then I take the burrs away because I don't want to see those on the outside later. And this is now ready for its bottom, which has been sitting over here getting drier. So just gonna recompress it, make sure it's firm. And for scoring this, I use this little tool because it just needs the fine. I'm just gonna do a little tiny line all around. The scoring line is a little bit thicker than my wall, so it'll leave a little bit of a mess on the inside, and we'll clean that up later. So that's what it looks like when it's done. I'll put it back here just to make sure that I didn't distort it when I was doing all that, and it's time to put some edge water on. Now my pattern, now I have my stamp and I line that up with the seam. That's again just a design choice. And if my pattern was well done, then the bottom will fit the wall. And this is pretty good just because I've done it a while and I've tweaked them. And I kind of know how much curve I'm putting into it. So I'm just gonna check and make sure everything is all lined up where I want it. If for some reason I have something that's too far in and I need to pull it out, I can lift it off the mold. Like here's a place where it needs to come out. Just use my finger inside and push it out just a little bit so that it's all nicely lined up along the edge. Everything's lined up. And that's just tacked on. That's really not a firm seam, you know, it's not a secure seam yet. So I have a little paddle that's just got like a nylon sock kind of thing to keep it from sticking to the clay. But it's just a flat paddle. I don't have any that don't have the sock on. It's from the kitchen store. And I'm gonna tap very lightly all the way around. I'm trying to tap to make sure that I'm keeping the same curve that I want in the bottom. There. And I do a gentle tap because if I do too hard, then it's going to put too much stress on the rim. So that's nicely secured now. And I don't know if you can see this. There's a little bit of mess inside. Can you guys see that?
Very minor.
Huh?
Very minor.
Yeah, not too much. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less. I have this little wooden stick, and I'll just rub it along the inside there. And that serves a couple of purposes. If there's any extra slip of any kind, it takes it away. And I so graciously just wipe it on my hands. If I have any scoring marks that are still visible, it smooths them out. You can see I'm getting a little bit of look. So if there's any scoring lines, it smooths them out. And it also compresses the seam and makes it less likely to crack. And so you end up with a nicely clean seam. Okay? Now, I tend not to, there's a little bit of schmutz on the outside. I don't mess with that until later because every time I try to touch it, I seem to make it worse. So I'll do that when it's almost bone dry. Clean those things off. All right, so now the walls are straight, and if you want straight walls, you can leave straight walls. But if you remember, I have curves in mine, and so the next step is to put the curves in. And to do that, I just use my hands, and I put the curves in the seam first, and then I fill them in around because the seam is thicker and is a little more resistant. So I'm just using the pad of my middle finger, and I'm using my thumb as a brace on the outside. You can see, and I'm going to press. I'm tapping, not rubbing. I'm tapping inside. See, can you see that? Starting to curve. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Using my thumb to brace on the outside and tapping with my middle finger on the inside. And what I'm looking for as I do it is partly the curve and also to make sure that I don't overstretch the clay and put a tear in it. And so I'm starting to get sort of the little fat bottom girl with a little kind of skew up with a waist. So now I've got the shape on the seams. I'm going to go and I'm going to rub. I'm no longer tapping. Now I'm going to rub continuously along the inside using my thumb as a brace on the outside. Kind of going very slowly, rubbing it along. You can make whatever shape you want, really. This is the hand builder's equivalent of shaping after you've made the cylinder. So now it's kind of got a fat bottom. And what I'm going to do next, for me, when I drink out of a mug, I like the wall that I'm drinking out of to be vertical. I don't like it when they taper in like that. I don't like the way it fits your mouth. So I'm just going to kind of very gently make sure that the top of this is not really tapered in, but vertical. Again, that's just my design choice. All right, so that's about right. And it's kind of round, it's roundish, it's not perfectly round. And its next place to go is back on the flower pot. And I will do a little extra divot right on the seams just to enhance the curve right there. And that's ready to sit there until we're going to work on handles. Let me stop there. Any questions on I would say we've made a cylinder at this point. It's the equivalent of making the cylinder. Any questions up through there?
Not here.
Okay. So I'm going to make some handles. And I made a few before, and I'll show you how I make them. I have an extruder, and I made my own die for it because I didn't like any of the dies that were available. So you know when you get an extruder, this is like a handheld extruder. I don't have the big ball mount anymore. It comes with blanks. Like that. It doesn't have anything in it. And so I used one of those blanks, and I made myself a handle die in the shape of the handle that I wanted. I wanted it to be curved on the top and on the bottom. And did it with a drill and some metal files. Okay. So for the handles, one of the things I like to do is make a whole bunch of handles and then try them and see which ones I like on mugs. So for this mug, I made and I'll show you how I did it, but I made a 4-inch handle, a 4.5-inch handle, and a 5-inch handle to kind of get a sense of what size looks right to me. And so you can kind of say that for me feels about right. If I put on a 5-inch handle, that feels out of scale to me. But again, that's sort of design preference. And so I'll make a whole bunch of handles. This one's in the middle. This one I could see if I wanted to mount it real high. But that, I'll make a bunch of them and then I'll see which one works right for this particular shape. And then I know how long to extrude. And I did this one before, and if I remember correctly, that was 4 inches. Okay, so I'm gonna put my fingers here so that I can kind of hold it as it comes out. I'm not too worried about it bending a little bit. I get this kind of squiggly thing that I will flatten out on the surface. I don't smooth it. Again, this is sort of my aesthetic. I don't take away any of the texture, but you could use a finishing sponge and you could smooth it out if you wanted to. And so from my little samples, I know that 4 inches was about right. So I'm going to cut off 1 inch piece. And now just pull that. But I like it to be thicker where it attaches. You can see it's kind of smushed there. And so to do that, I gently put my hands on either side, so I'm creating like a little V with my fingers. And I'm going to press down and rock. And I'm going to rock back and forth and side to side. And that's going to make the clay spread out a little bit at the end. Okay, so I've got fingers on either side, and I'm going to smush a little bit front to back and a little bit side to side. And you end up just kind of getting it a little thicker on the end. And it's this one's a little fatter on one side than the other, so I might kind of just go smush that a little bit so it's a little more even. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. It must not have been 4 inches. This one's too short. Okay, same thing. We're gonna, on the other side, I'm gonna use the tips of my fingers, front to back, side to side, front to back, side to side.
Like it.
And you end up with this little fat thing that will go on the mug. But obviously, this is way too short. So I'm just remembering the length wrong. I'll use one of these other handles that I made before. Unless you wanted to make a little 1-finger handle. That could be kind of cute too. All right. So I'll use one of these. Well, it's a little dry. I think I'll do that. People have a little 1-finger handle guy. So I'm going to score the mug. Put it up to see about where it belongs. And I could mark it, but I don't. I just eyeball it. And I score. I don't score over the seam. I score next to the seam because that's where all the thickness is. To support the handle. And then I'll score the that I made. When I'm scoring this guy, I try to be careful not to score all the way to the edge, and you'll see that. Because I don't smooth this on, I just put it on and leave it. So magic water, again, just on one side. And I have to get this. Normally I would do this in my lap, but you won't be able to see it, so I'll try to do it here. So I'm going to support from the inside because I don't want to distort the mug. Press it on and wiggle back and forth side to side. This is where the magic water for me seems to make a difference because it really like grabs on. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my finger supporting inside. Press it on. And this to me, like that looks too flat, so I'm gonna give it a little more.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it back on here, because all of that messing around may have taken away the roundness. And I'm gonna just reinforce the curves that I put in, because sometimes they come out. And that's done.
Nice.
It'll sit here. I'll kind of take it off once in a while, make sure it doesn't shrink on there, and I'll leave it on, I don't know, until I need that for the next piece. So that's usually about 5 or 10 minutes.
Love it.
So you don't usually do handles like that, but how do you feel about that one finger handle?
Love it.
Okay, I lost you for a second. Did the is your volume's coming through the other phone, or your, so if you want to unmute yourself there. I think we lost the other phone, Pamela.
Can you hear me?
That's it. There you go.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that handle? Since you don't normally do the one fingers.
So here, I'll show you. Where's my other? This is another style handle that I make. So I don't have anything against one finger handles. That's another. This one has a foot on it instead of the rounded bottom, but I make that kind of one finger handle. I like this better because it's more oval, and that to me is a little more interesting than just the little circle. So.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think I would like this on a smaller, maybe little espresso mug or something. You can see, put them side by side. You can see one that's more like what I would normally do. That's what I would normally do. And that's today's.
It is cool seeing two completely different ways to do handles here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think a hand-built pot goes well with a hand-built handle, and a thrown pot goes well with a thing. So I like to do hand-built just because it's a hand-built pot. All right, we're at 4 o'clock too.
I like
Yay.
it.
Good job.
So I don't know if we have anything else. I know, Alan, did you want to kind of remind everybody about the program that we have coming up with Lynn and
Cindy? Yes, Lynn and Cindy. So we have, well, we have a happy hour coming up July 31st. So we're going to continue to do the happy hours on the last Fridays of the month. We're going to do those at 5:30, last Friday of the month. We won't always have somebody in to do a studio tour or anything like that, but we're just always going to have that meeting to where we can all get together, maybe have breakout groups, something like that, where we can hang out, show off our new creations, just catch up since we're all kind of isolated at this time. And then the next educational session we'll have is going to be August 9th. That's going to be from 2 to 4 again. That's where we're scheduled at right now. But 2 to 4, August 9th. And it's going to be on marketing with Lynn Belisle. Lynn Belisle. She was on here earlier. She's out right now. But it's going to be her and Cindy Morovsky. I'm not sure if I'm saying that exactly right. But her and Cindy will be doing the session on marketing August 9th. we're still working out some of the details on how we're getting, like what our timing is with the newsletters and with these sessions. Mostly we're just really happy that we're able to start these virtual sessions and get everyone together. So we're going to try to get those newsletters happening in a way that is kind of supportive of our happy hours and our education sessions. But in the meantime, you will definitely get an email at least a week in advance, or about a week in advance, with the link to the sessions, and it'll be set up just like this. If we have sessions like the one today with Benner and Pamela, we'll have everyone in the session mostly quiet, asking questions as they come up. And then on the happy hours, we might have breakouts where a group of 4 or 5 people will get sent out into different rooms, and you'll get kind of mixed up and get a chance to speak with different members of the guild about what you're working on and kind of see what everyone else has been doing. So that's just kind of an idea of what's going on. If you have your own ideas, we'd love to hear them. If you have recommendations for people that you'd love to have in here doing a virtual session, or if you yourself would like to do a virtual session, definitely let us know, because we do, we're open to ideas, and we would like to get things moving, and the virtual presentations like this is one of the best ways we can do that. So Pamela, Benner, do you guys have anything else you'd like to add? Does anyone else have any other questions? It was great.
I think Pam and Benner get the gold star for today. They did great. We appreciate you putting all the work together to make this happen.
Thank you, Alan.
Here, here.
I want to know how much you charge to organize a studio.
About a house. Can I ask a question? Something else?
Go ahead.
Yes. Go ahead, Leslie.
Does anybody know who made this?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Does anybody know who made this mug?
Here, wait, I'll put you on the presentation. Can everyone see that mug?
Is there any kind of a chop on it?
Just that. Much of anything.
Make out it does.
I can't see it. Oh, there it is. I don't know.
Nobody knows? Okay. Well, thanks anyway.
We can post it on the, if you want to post it to the Facebook, maybe Leslie, take a picture of it and post it to Facebook. Maybe somebody will see it there.
By the way, take me off of this thing because you can see all my crap.
I'm going to zoom in on you real quick.
For everybody.
All right.
Same thing.
Last time.
Yeah, thanks. I thought, so what we did today, if anyone is interested in presenting yourself, what we did today is we just had Benner and Pamela's phones. We're using, what kind of phones do you guys have?
iPhones.
Just iPhones. So we have 2 iPhones. We kind of had the luxury of having 2 of them, and with Zoom, what we can do is as you have seen, we can spotlight the presenter. And with 2 phones like they had, we had the benefit that we could move the spotlight from one phone to the next when they move. But if you're interested in doing something at your own home studio, the attachments for a tripod are relatively cheap, or you can lean your phone up against anything and do a presentation that way. So we're very flexible. We don't have to have professional audio and professional video. We can just make it happen the best way we can right now. So yeah, so hopefully, somebody might be willing to step in and do something like this in the future, since we see how easy it is. So thank you for making that easy, Pamela and Benner. Appreciate it.
Thanks to our professional moderator.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alan, you did a great job.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Bye.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Pamela. Thanks, Benner.
Thank you.
I'll be over in a little while.
All right, I'll be here.